What up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome back to another Warframe video. So, the Sisters of Parvos Corpus Lich update came out today. At long last. We've been talking about it for months and months at this point. It's finally out, and we got our hands on some of these new Corpus Lich sister weapons. Let me first tell you that farming liches now is a lot faster. Guys, I've completed 3 to 4 liches, I want to say, in less than 4 hours. And one of the liches I beat in 5 missions. So they've made farming these a lot faster. We're going to be going over one of the new weapons today, the new AoE rocket launcher, the Tenet Envoy. We're going to be showing a max damage roll, and this will be mostly a first impressions video because there's certain things that after only a couple hours of playing I still do not have. Mainly the new Steel Path arcanes, which will give you about 300% increased damage when you get some kills. But we do have the new galvanized mods, so we'll show a Steel Path build for the Tenet Envoy, and also a star chart build and all that kind of stuff. We'll also go over how this thing works. So before we get into it, I will be live streaming tomorrow as well, some more of this update. So make sure you check out the live stream channel if you want to. Well, yeah, there'll be lots of YouTube videos coming out as well, because once I get these new arcanes and all that, because nobody has them right now, I will be putting out some more information on that as well. So, the Tenet Envoy. This thing, it was actually the weapon I was most excited for with the update. And I can tell you that it is good. It's actually comparable to the Kuva Bramma, but it's not the end-all, be-all of all weapons. As you can see right here, this thing is MR 16 required. One of the highest mastery rank required weapons in the entire game. So we have to hold it to a very high standard here. Let's go over how this thing works. So it's a rocket launcher. Basically, it's one of the briefcase weapons. You put it on your hip, it's like you're carrying around a briefcase. So aimed rockets are wire-guided for greater accuracy. Basically, it's like if you ever fought a bombard enemy in this game, where they're looking is where the rocket will eventually go, and it has, like, you are the person that homes it in. When you're not aimed down sights, it just shoots a rocket as normal. When you're aimed down sights, you guide where it goes. The patented Granum Attache system reloads the weapon while holstered. It has auto-reload while holstered. The auto-reload while holstered is not very fast. I'd say like one or two rounds every couple of seconds. And the reload speed on this thing is terrible at 4 seconds. So it does have a reload issue. This thing has a couple weaknesses, I'd say, but it is still very powerful. So let's go over these base stats. You've got 28% crit chance and a 2.6 multiplier. Those are very good stats for a rocket launcher AoE gun like this. So that's a good place to start off with. One of the weaknesses of this weapon, 0.83 fire rate. It has very low fire rate. This thing is full auto technically. If you hold the trigger down, it keeps firing. But, you know, it's very slow fire rate, so you might as well just use it semi-auto. It says semi-auto right here. It's not semi-auto. I've fired it full auto before. 8-round magazine, so you'll shoot through it pretty quickly and have to deal with that 4-second terrible reload. And you also got 24% status chance. Good status chance, but the way this thing works is you're not proccing much status chance. Actually, it doesn't proc that much at all. So I have actually not even been using the new conditioned overload for guns. And as far as damage types, it innately has cold damage on the explosion, and the impact of the rocket will do impact damage. So that cold, if you get a toxin roll of the Tenet Envoy, because the Kuva weapons and like the Lich weapons can have innate elementals, innate toxin will make this innate viral right off the bat. So that's pretty good, but keep in mind, when you start putting mods on the build, it will change things up a little bit. The roll I ended up going for is a radiation roll. But let's just quickly show this thing in action before we get into that. So here's me holding down the trigger. As you can see, like it says it's semi-auto, but I'm literally holding down the mouse button right now and it keeps firing. So it's not semi-auto, but it fires so slow it might as well be. That's me holding down the trigger normally. There's the painfully long reload. Pretty cool reload animation though. And let's do it while we're aimed down sights. So we're aimed down sights. The rocket launcher is going to fire off these rockets that we can guide where they go. As you can hear that beeping, that's actually the beeping of the rocket. So let's make it blow up over there. And what you can do actually is you can fire off the rocket while it's in homing mode, and then release it, and it stops being homed in. Like it's basically your guided missile. Take it off, it will go a little bit slower while you're ADS, but then you can release it to just start going fast again. And vice versa, you can fire it off not ADS, and then switch to ADS while it's in flight. So there's tactical use of it, but I personally feel like the gimmick of guided missiles on this thing is more of just, it's kind of wasted, to be honest. It's not very useful, and we're not looking to do trick shots with this thing. So there's 2 builds I'll be showing you today. One of them is for Star Chart, and just, you know, like blasting through Elite Sanctuary Onslaught, blasting through like a Lich mission or whatever, and there's also going to be the Scaling Hunter Munitions Steel Path build. The thing about this, like I said, when we get the primary slot unlocked, you'll be looking at about 360% increased damage here, as well as some increased reload speed and all that. You might potentially take off Serration in that situation for maybe more crit damage, some other type of mod that might be more useful than having Serration here, because it will have a little bit of diminishing returns. But we'll show this build on the Steel Path. Keep in mind, there's these new Galvanized mods. This one that we're using right here is called Galvanized Chamber. It's 80% multi-shot, and then on kill, 30% multi-shot for 20 seconds, stacked up to 5 times. So that 80% goes with the extra 150%, and you get 230% multi-shot. So things like Vigilante armaments are actually a lot less valuable, in my opinion, after this change, because we're at 230% multi-shot. Another 60 just makes it 290. You're not getting over any thresholds you couldn't hit before. So I'm probably not going to use this mod as much. Also, keep in mind, they did buff the Cautious Shot mod in this update. If you do not have Prime Sure-Footed, this weapon can stagger you and knock you over, so maybe consider putting on Cautious Shot if you don't want to run the Vigilante Supplies mod for increased crits. This will just make, it's basically like Prime Sure-Footed, but only for when you're getting shot by a rocket launcher. So we'll take Prime Sure-Footed off of here. You might have Arcane Avenger on here if you see any orange crits, because this thing with just Point Strike is going to be 70% crit chance. They also recently buffed Critical Delay for rifles and for shotguns and all that stuff. If you put on this mod, it will reduce your fire rate. This thing is a fire rate problem. You get another 14% crit chance, making you at 84% crit chance. I don't feel like that's important enough that I'm going to be willing to go with that negative fire rate negative on there. So I'm just going to stick with Point Strike for now. So let's just quickly show Cautious Shot in effect, since it was buffed today, basically. Shoot at your feet. Now, it's not going to make it where it's actually like Prime Sure-Footed, but the thing is, if we didn't have Cautious Shot in here right now, we'd be getting fully knocked over, not just a slight stagger. So if you shoot it from far enough away, it's not really that great, but it's better than nothing, I guess. I personally would probably not run that mod, but I also have not I've not been using things without Prime Sure-Footed for a while, so let's just show it without that mod. See right there, full knockdown. It does change it a little bit, but not enough that I really am like, oh man, I'm sure glad that I am using that mod. I will probably never use that mod, to be honest, as I do have Prime Sure-Footed. It takes 400 days logging in to get this mod. So let's show it against some enemies here. We'll start off with the Star Chart build, and we'll start enemies around level 100. So as far as the mods are running on here, since we have a Radiation roll, we can do Radiation, Corrosive, and Cold. Now, Corrosive damage is good against one of the armor types, Ferrite armor, and then Radiation is good against the Alloy armor. Also, Alloy armor is pretty weak against Cold, so we can cover both damage types, or both armor types here really well. And this actually can switch to viral Radiation and things like that. Keep in mind, this weapon cannot really do viral heat very well. It's going to take quite a few mod slots to fit that all on here. And we've also got Prime Firestorm, bringing the explosion range from 8 to 13.28, which is actually a pretty big increase in range. It's basically bigger range than the Bramma. And also, keep in mind, you can also run the Amalgam Furax body count if you're running the Furax, and that will increase the blast radius on these explosion weapons even more. And that's going to be a very specific thing you're going to want to do there. As you can see, blaster weapons get increased blast radius again. It takes it up to like 14.86, nearly 15 meters. So let's summon in these guys. We'll start them at level 100, as this is the Star Chart build, and these are the tankiest enemies that can spawn Exo Goose Drag officers. And we'll have to walk around too, just so you can see basically how it works. Alright, so this is like a combat situation. You would never see this many of these enemies in the same place, but you know what I'm saying here. So with all this radius and AoE explosions, it covers a huge area. Maybe a level 100 is a little bit too high for this build. But yeah, you're not getting many headshots with this thing, which is why I'm not really going for Galvanized Scope or anything like that. Now that the Rad Proc, they're fighting each other. Nice little bit of CC in there. But you don't really want to use this weapon as a CC weapon. You want to use this weapon as a AoE clearer. And as you can see, while you're aiming at an enemy, the rockets fly around. You can direct it directly at their head, but it's more going to be a spray and pray, you know, just instant clear multiple enemies kind of weapon. So, as you can see right there, that was the Star Chart build, not really meant for those high-level enemies. But let's show the scaling build actually meant for those high-level enemies here. All right, Hunter Munitions. Basically, when you get a crit, you'll be getting some slash procs. Man, the Greer makes those slash procs stronger. We took off Prime Firestorm on here because we're not clearing as many enemies. And yeah, it will just one-shot them, so that's pretty good. But that's because Slash is king, and this weapon does not proc Slash normally. We did some tests between this and the Bramma earlier. It was kind of a toss-up, which was better. the cat actually cheated there. You will not be getting these types of orange crits here, but if you were to get the orange crit cat buff, this is what it would look like. 35,000 slash procs, and we're going to go ahead and unequip the cat, because that is not fair. Alright, so we'll do some Steel Path gameplay here that's not tainted by the cat buff. And we'll do level 180 because that's just how it is, you know? You just want to see the highest level stuff. That's just how it is, dude. Alright, cat buff finally wore off. Here we go. Galvanized Chamber is slowly decaying. And yes, when we don't have the cheating cat buff, it's actually not as crazy as that. We will see some orange crits from the Vigilante set bonus. So you want to have that viral stats on them just so you can actually get more like damage from your slash procs. As far as running a 60-60 mod versus running a... that was a 332%, or 332,000 damage slash proc, by the way. So if you somehow get a headshot with this thing, it does ridiculous damage. So, but yeah, don't consider that reliable. Yeah, so as far as comparing this to the Bramma, we can just do a quick test, the exact same build on this thing and the exact same build on the Bramma. So we'll pause them, and we'll just fire off one shot. Keep in mind, like, ADSing this thing, not really what I'd recommend. So headshot right there, 268,000. Let's fire into like the group of them. We're getting about 24,000 damage slash procs with this build, and we'll do the exact same build in the Bramma, then we'll jump into some Steel Path gameplay, okay? Because this thing actually is pretty good in the Steel Path. So we basically have the exact same weapon here. We've got the Kuva Bramma Radiation Roll and the Tenet Envoy Radiation Roll. As you can see, the Kuva Bramma has slightly more crit chance, a much worse crit multiplier though, 2.1 versus the Envoy's 2.6. We've got lower stash chance, and we've got more base damage. We've got, on the explosion, for the Envoy, 640 damage. On the Kuva Bramma, 839. Keep in mind, the Kuva elemental bonus actually is going to give you a bigger chunk of damage. So, we're not going to use the Riven, because, no. So, exact same build, basically. We were running Galvanized Aptitude just to test something out. We'll put Serration back on there, because I don't really think this weapon, these weapons are proccing enough stash chance for me to really use this. So, 14,000 damage from the Bramma. Going to do the exact same thing, trying to go for a headshot in the first enemy, which is not really something you do in the Bramma, but we'll do it anyway. And then we'll shoot into a horde of them after that. Alright. Headshots. So, yeah. It's a little bit different. It's very different, but as you can see, like, it's much more spammable. There's no reload involved with the Bramma. And as long as you can pick up ammo with Vigilante supplies, you can just spam it forever. So, I feel like I'd still call the Bramma better, but the Envoy is very, very good. And I do recommend that you get it, especially since the Corpus Liches are very easy to farm. Guys, I'm telling you, the first mission I did for this, for the Corpus Liches, I got the entire first Requiem solved. And the second mission, second and third mission, I got the second circle solved. In 5 missions, I was killing my Lich. Oh, rather, I was going to the space mission to kill my Lich. They've made it much, much faster. And this weapon is one of those, like, it's MR16 for a reason, I feel like. It's an AoE, high stat, rocket launcher that, honestly, the reload speed is really, really bad, but you can technically mod for it. It does really have the auto holster thing, so if you are someone that's going to be like firing off a couple rockets, switch into your melee, swing your melee a couple times, you will have enough shots that you can just basically not spam it, but you can utilize this thing quite regularly. So we could show that in the simulacrum after some of this gameplay plays, because I believe that's how this thing was intended to be used. They put the auto reload in there for a reason, and this cannot stack with the, I think it's called lock and load or tactical reload mod in the Exilus slot. The other auto reload feature, you cannot actually stack that together with this. But as you can see, Steel Path, one-shotting all these guys. The reload's terrible, but that's what you... It has some weaknesses. Like I said, it's not the god weapon. It's not the end-all, be-all. But the damage is good. The damage is definitely good. We're using Arcane Avenger here, I believe, with Sevagoth's first ability, the debuff, which is... the way I look at it is if you're going to be using a primary in the Steel Path, you definitely want to be buffing yourself in some way. And this weapon actually could take care of the Acolyte, guys. So it took about like 4 or 5 shots to kill the Acolyte. This is all with no Riven. Keep in mind I have no Riven for this thing. Another reason why this is a first impressions video, not an in-depth, like, okay, this is the way to do it. And I went with a Radiation roll. I feel like you could go for a Toxin roll and also have a very good time. I like the Radiation roll just because it diversifies your damage, lets you cover all the armor types very easily. But if you wanted to go for Toxin for a maximum corrosive chunk or a maximum viral chunk, be my guest. There's definitely nothing wrong with that. And if you want to go for a viral heat setup as well, you can make that work as well. So it's a pretty versatile weapon. and I've been enjoying it quite a bit. I think it might be a new mainstay for me. I'm going to try to get a riven for it for sure. As far as a riven for this thing, I'm thinking I want to go for a quality of life riven, actually, with reload speed. Probably not. Fire rate probably won't be worth it. I definitely want to go for reload speed on the riven, though, because 4-second reload is terrible. Maybe if I was actually utilizing the playstyle DE wants me to utilize here with, firing off a couple rockets, switching to my melee, switching to my secondary, and then going back to my rocket launcher with the magazine fully reloaded, that would probably be a little bit more practical and useful. But the way I look at it is I'm focusing on using my primary here in this clip. Maybe in a more long-term situation, I'll start using my primary more. But the only reason this is actually looking good right now is because of Hunter Munitions, to be honest. Weapons that can't proc slash or can't crit are not even in the conversation. And the reason this is looking pretty good on the Steel Path right now is because of Hunter Munitions and the high crit chance and all that. The stash chance is not high enough for the Condition Overload mod, so I'm not look at these guys. When they survive, they're going to have 1 or 2 procs in them. Right there, that would have not been worth using Condition Overload right there. Serration will be more important in that situation until I get these arcanes with 360% increased damage. So that will be double Serration. So the build might change in the future, guys. But this is the initial first impressions of it. And I'm going to tell you right now, it is good against the Acolyte, but it's mostly Hunter Munitions doing the work. So let's show you what I was talking about here. So we've got the Twin Comac in our secondary slot. So we're going to use the Tenet Envoys. A couple rockets fired off. Let's fire off 3. Now we're going to switch to our secondary, start using this. By the time we switch back, it should be fully reloaded. It's fully reloaded, as you can see. Takes some time to get it actually out. But this is what DE wants you to do. They want you to fire off your first gun, switch to your second gun, switch back, fully reloaded, and this is the intended gameplay loop of some of these new weapons. So take it for what you will. Hopefully you found this video helpful. Oh, by the way, this ephemera I have equipped on Civigoth right now. This is the new Radiation ephemera. I got this from the Radiation Lich that I killed to get this new Tenet Envoy. So if you guys think it's cool, go ahead and get a Radiation Lich, and good luck to you. Alright guys, hope you found the video helpful. See you in another one tomorrow, and see you on the live stream later today as well. Take it easy, guys. Peace.